When Kareem found himself cornered by 3 bullies behind the gym, they anticipated he would show fear. Within seconds, however, one of them was on the ground, and the others understood what it meant to pick on the wrong kid. As Kareem Tolliver stepped through the front doors of Millstone High in Lansing, Michigan, people hardly took notice. There was no grand welcome or curious whispers, just another transfer student. By the middle of the semester, the wear on his backpack was evident, his hoodie had seen better days, and he moved with a careful kind of quiet. It was as if he had learned to gauge the atmosphere before engaging in conversation. On a cold Monday, slush and snow still lined the sidewalk, and the morning bell rang sharply through the halls. Kareem paused at his locker, scanning the numerous names and faces rushing by. He wasn't fearful, he simply understood the routine: find your classes, make no waves, keep to yourself. In the first period math class, a handful of students glanced over when he entered. A girl in the corner whispered something behind her hand, while the teacher smiled, gestured to an empty desk in the back, and moved on. No introduction, no curiosity, just silence. Kareem didn't mind, he'd learned that silence wasn't always negative. Back in Detroit, where he originated, it often signified safety. He didn't flaunt flashy clothes or draw attention to himself intentionally. His uncle referred to it as moving invisible, a skill acquired in certain neighborhoods where drawing too much attention could result in trouble, or worse. But Millstone High differed from Detroit, it was polished. The kids were decked out in name-brand apparel, their haircuts looked like they were scheduled, their laughter was loud and confident, and they moved as if they owned the floor. Nobody directly commented on Kareem, but he noticed the way some looked at his shoes and how a kid in gym class eyed his second-hand hoodie as if it were stained. By the third day, he found himself eating lunch alone at a table in the back of the cafeteria with a tray containing spaghetti, a banana, and chocolate milk, simple and quiet. He chewed slowly, watching and listening. That's when he caught the laugh. "Yo, what is that? Did you bring that from home or something?" Kareem lifted his gaze to see a tall white boy in a varsity jacket standing a few feet away, smirking. It was Brock Simmons, the football co-captain, star tight end, and self-proclaimed king of the junior class. 2 other boys flanked him, both grinning, as if sharing an inside joke. Kareem didn't respond. "Man's eating like it's the Great Depression," Brock added loudly enough for tables nearby to hear, eliciting some laughter. Not everyone joined in, but enough did. Kareem kept his eyes down, continuing to eat. He didn't want trouble, not now. One of Brock's friends, a short kid with a crew cut, leaned over. "You hear me, man? You deaf or just slow?" Kareem glanced at him for just a moment, then blinked, grabbed his milk, and stood up. "I'm done." He walked away, no insults, no scene, just left the tray and made his way toward the hallway. Later that afternoon, someone knocked his science books off the desk. Nobody claimed responsibility, and the teacher didn't notice. After school, someone wrote "charity case" in dry erase marker across his locker. It came off easily but left a mark. That night, Kareem returned home quietly, taking the number 12 bus to the edge of town where his uncle's gym was situated behind a tire shop. As he entered, the smell of sweat and leather hit his nose even before the bell chimed above the door. Uncle Reggie glanced up from wrapping someone's hands. "You all right?" "Yeah," Kareem muttered, "just school." Reggie didn't press further. He nodded once, gestured to the mats, and said, "Let it out, that's what they're there for." Without a word, Kareem switched, stepped onto the mat, and struck the pads like they were speaking to him personally: hooks, counters, pivots, clean, fast, focused. He didn't need to boast about what he could do, he simply had to remember who taught him never to let anger take the lead. But one small act in the cafeteria set off a chain reaction Kareem hadn't intended to unleash. A moment that should have been trivial, a silly joke, a quick jab, one of those incidents that fade from memory by the next period, was anything but for Brock Simmons. It wasn't the joke that mattered to Brock, but the response, or rather, the absence of a reaction. Kareem hadn't flinched, he hadn't appeared scared, he simply walked away, and that was what bothered Brock. By Friday, Kareem's name circulated through the locker rooms. The new kid had an attitude, someone mentioned, doesn't talk, just stares, they stated as if it was an offense. During gym class, Kareem was paired with Brock for basketball drills. The coach barked out pairings, and the boys lined up. Kareem didn't flinch when Brock tossed the ball at his chest slightly harder than necessary. "Come on, Tolliver, show me what you got." Kareem bounced the ball once, then twice. "We're just passing, right?" "Yeah, just passing," Brock replied casually. But when Kareem passed the ball back, he snapped it like a photograph right into Brock's chest, dead on, and the sound echoed. Brock blinked, and a few boys snickered. "Dang," someone muttered. Brock forced a tight smile. "All right, cool." At that moment, he decided he didn't like Kareem. What followed were petty, snide remarks in the hallways, gum lodged in Kareem's locker, and one time a kid tripped him by the vending machines. Kareem never reacted, he never told on anyone. He just kept moving. But silence in a place like Millstone was like gasoline, and Brock had a lighter. Lunchtime evolved into a stage where Brock hurled loud jokes in Kareem's direction from across the room. "You from Detroit, right? Did you bring your bulletproof vest or did you leave it at home?" The table erupted with laughter. Some kids appeared uncomfortable, yet no one spoke up. Kareem fixed his gaze on his sandwich. One of Brock's friends, Logan Ferris, leaned in. "Dude, I think he might actually be crazy. Look at him, he doesn't even blink." "He's not crazy," Brock interjected loudly enough to reach afar. "He's just another hood story waiting to unfold." That comment struck a chord with Kareem. After school, he hastened to the bus stop, fully aware of how situations escalated. He'd witnessed it, he'd been around it, but this time it felt personal. At home, Uncle Reggie perceived the tension in Kareem's jaw. "You holding something back?" Kareem nodded slowly, attempting to collect his thoughts. Reggie set his coffee down. "Sometimes holding back is more challenging than swinging. You know what I mean?" "Yeah," Kareem admitted, "you're not there to teach anyone a lesson, you're there to graduate, to build something." Reggie held his gaze for a long moment before adding, "But if someone backs you into a corner, don't let them walk all over you either." Kareem remained silent, he didn't need to respond. Back at school, the rumors morphed into a new narrative that Kareem had a criminal record, that he'd been expelled from 2 previous schools, that he had fought a teacher in 8th grade. None of it was accurate, yet no one cared. In history class, Brock leaned over from behind. "Ever seen a real fight, Tolliver?" Kareem didn't turn around. "Yeah, I mean up close, not on TV. Blood on the floor kind." Finally, Kareem glanced over his shoulder. "You don't want that kind." Brock smiled, but it faded slightly. The following day, Brock made a choice. He intercepted Kareem outside the gym after 6th period, approaching him with headphones in, making his way to the back parking lot where the late buses awaited. Brock and 2 of his friends quietly followed. "Yo, Tolliver," Kareem turned, pulling out an earbud. "You think you're tough?" "No," he replied. "You act like it." "I act like I want to be left alone." "You don't get to make that choice." Brock advanced a step forward. Kareem's shoulders tensed. "You done?" Brock moved in closer. "Not yet." The bell rang behind them, and the hallway erupted with noise, yet this moment remained frozen in time. Brock didn't realize he was pressing on something trained to neither snap nor yield. The following day, a Friday, cold wind sliced through the Millstone parking lot as students hurried to their buses or rides. Kareem stayed back, aiding Mr. Patel, the custodian, with the stacking of old desks near the side exit. He wasn't attempting to impress anyone, he simply didn't want to be lost in the crowd. Brock had orchestrated it carefully. By the time Kareem walked around the back of the gym, the parking lot had largely cleared, save for a few cars, and no teachers were visible. Brock leaned against the dumpsters with Logan and Ty, all three adopting a casual stance, hands in pockets as if they were merely hanging out. Kareem spotted them and continued walking. His backpack rested over one shoulder, and he maintained his pace. "Hey," Brock called out. Kareem halted about 10 feet away. "What, you think you're smart or something? Just ignoring me whenever I speak? I didn't come here for you. You didn't even come here at all. You got dropped off here." Kareem narrowed his eyes. "What do you want?" Logan circled to the side, moving slowly, while Ty leaned back, chewing gum like he wasn't part of any situation. "I want to know what makes you so special." Brock said, "You act like you're better than everyone, sitting alone, staring at people." "I'm just minding my business." "No, you're disrespecting mine." Kareem met his gaze firmly. "You've got something to prove? Then prove it." That's when Logan sprang into action, shoving Kareem's chest. It wasn't clean, it wasn't practiced, just sheer aggression. Kareem didn't move, he didn't retaliate. "Go on, Logan," Brock laughed. Logan made another attempt, this time swinging wildly at Kareem's shoulder. But Kareem had already stepped inside his reach. One twist and sweep sent Logan crashing to the ground with a sound that echoed. "What?" Ty began but didn't finish his sentence. Kareem turned his eyes toward Brock. "Don't." But Brock charged in, eyes locked in on Kareem, delivering a high punch, thinking his size would determine the outcome. Size didn't matter here. Kareem evaded the punch, pivoting as he drove his elbow into Brock's ribs with just enough force to buckle him. Ty retreated. "Yo, chill, man." It lasted approximately 12 seconds. Brock sprawled on the ground with one knee down, gasping for breath. Logan sat against the dumpster, eyes wide. Ty held his hands up, as though witnessing a stranger flip a car. Kareem stood still, not gloating, not taunting, just there. That was when Mr. Langford, the assistant principal, rounded the corner. "What's going on here?" Brock scrambled to his feet. "He jumped us." Kareem gave him a look. "You serious?" "I didn't do anything, man." "He's crazy." Mr. Langford glanced from Kareem to the others, observing no blood, no black eyes, just tension and fear, but not the type he anticipated. Kareem's hands remained calm, his breath steady, he seemed more composed than any of them. "Come with me," Langford instructed, and they walked to the office in silence, no one uttering a word in the waiting room. Kareem sat across from Brock. Logan had already called his dad, and Ty said nothing at all. Brock continued to mutter, "He's dead, he's done." Kareem didn't even look in his direction. Inside the principal's office, Mr. Langford studied Kareem intently. "Want to tell me what happened?" Kareem did, calm, straightforward, no lies, no sugarcoating. Langford listened, then leaned back. "You're lucky no one's bleeding." Kareem didn't reply. "You know we have a zero-tolerance policy, right?" "I didn't start it." Langford sighed. "Doesn't matter who instigates, what matters is who finishes it." Kareem focused on the desk. "Then maybe you should talk to those who never attempted to stop it." Langford blinked, taken aback, just briefly, he didn't know what to say. But when the dust settled and a teacher arrived, Kareem wasn't leaving the scene as a hero. By Monday, the entire Millstone High knew about the fight. It had sparked whispers and side glances everywhere. Kareem couldn't navigate a hallway without students stepping aside, not out of respect but out of wariness. He wasn't the quiet new kid anymore, he had morphed into something else, something to observe. In first period, The guy who used to sit behind him relocated to a different desk. When Kareem strolled in for lunch, no one uttered a word, no jokes were made, only silence. Yet this silence felt louder than everything. He took his usual spot in the back, laid down his tray, and ate alone, just like before, but now it was different. They weren't ignoring him, they were avoiding him. Across the room, Brock occupied a bustling table, retelling the incident like he was the victim. "Dude psycho," he claimed, "came at us like a scene from a movie. Kicked Logan's legs out like he's Bruce Lee or something. Nobody would normally act like that unless they'd been in real fights." Ty stayed quiet, and Logan didn't appear at school that day. A girl at the table raised an eyebrow. "But you guys encircled him, right?" Brock shot back. "Nah, we were just talking," he flipped out. She didn't buy it, but she didn't challenge him either. In gym class, Kareem wasn't assigned a partner. Coach Rollins merely instructed him to shadow drills today, no reason, no warning, just orders. Kareem didn't argue. After school, he opted for a longer route home, bypassing the corner store and veering through an alley he hadn't traversed since moving in. He needed time to think, space to breathe. When he returned home, Uncle Reggie was watching a replay of an old UFC match. Kareem dumped his bag by the door and crashed onto the couch. "Rough day?" Reggie inquired. "People act differently now." "You thought they'd be grateful?" "No, I just didn't think they'd look at me as if I were dangerous." Reggie switched off the television. "Listen, when you defend yourself and succeed, folks interpret that as strength, and strength intimidates the weak, especially the loud ones." Kareem stared at the floor. "I didn't even go hard, I held back." "I know you did, but it doesn't matter because you exposed something in that boy, and he's not prepared to live with it. What's next? You stay sharp. You remember your reason for being there." Kareem said nothing, for deep down, part of him wished he had gone harder. Things started to feel even odder at school. A few teachers regarded him with long, thoughtful gazes, and one guidance counselor even requested a check-in. "I just want to ensure you're adjusting," she said. "I know transferring mid-year can be challenging." Kareem nodded. She smiled too tightly. "Do you ever feel angry?" He stared at her. "Why?" "No reason, just checking." He stood up and walked out before she could finish her next thought. That night, a post appeared on social media, a blurry image of the fight behind the gym, captioned with, "He thinks he's in a movie. Scared yet?" That post originated from Brock's burner account. The comments rang in a mixed chorus. "Yo, he dropped Logan like a sack of bricks. Don't cross that dude. Nah, something's not right with him. Why is he here if he's going to act that way?" Kareem absorbed every word, once, twice, enough to feel something tighten in his chest. He wasn't ashamed of what he had done, but now the story was no longer his own. The next morning, he walked into school to find two security officers stationed by the main entrance, not a typical sight. In homeroom, the principal's voice crackled over the loudspeaker. "All students involved in last week's altercation are under review. A formal hearing will be conducted this Thursday." Kareem didn't react, he merely stared straight ahead. A hearing? Now they were formalizing everything. Yet the storm was far from over. Brock was probably gearing up to manipulate the narrative. Brock Simmons was unaccustomed to defeat, not on the field, not in class, and definitely not in front of an audience. That bout behind the gym left more than just physical bruises. It tarnished his image, which for someone like Brock, was a more significant blow than any strike. Thus, he resorted to what people of his kind routinely do when they feel a loss of control. He lied. It commenced with casual whispers to teachers, nonchalant comments regarding feeling unsafe around Kareem. Then came the rumors. Kareem had been expelled from 2 schools before Millstone, he had broken someone's nose in middle school, and he carried a knife in his backpack. None of it was true, yet it went unchallenged. The video Brock shared continued to circulate. It was grainy and brief, cut just before Logan swung first, yet in those fragmented moments, Kareem appeared to be the aggressor, calm, calculated, and dangerous. Brock added captions, "Watch how he moves. That's not normal." He included hashtags, #Tremelstone threat, #Nepard shouldn't be here. The comments grew darker. "He's not like us. Betty learned that in juvie. Expel him before something worse occurs." Kareem witnessed it all. He didn't reply or defend himself, but silence carries its own price. By Tuesday, his mom received a call from the school. By Wednesday, a formal hearing was arranged with the district office, and Kareem would need to attend with a parent or guardian. Reggie took a day off work. Inside the conference room, the walls appeared plain, a large rectangular table positioned in the center. On one side sat the principal, Mr. Langford, a school board member, and the head of student discipline. On the other were Kareem, Reggie, and a folder filled with statements Reggie had insisted Kareem draft in case things turned sideways. Brock wasn't present. He didn't have to be. His narrative was already casting a shadow in the room. Mr. Langford cleared his throat. "We've had numerous concerns raised by students, faculty, and parents. It's our duty to assess whether Kareem Tolliver is an ongoing safety threat to the student body." Reggie leaned in. "My nephew is not a threat. He's trained in self-defense. He didn't seek out a fight, he tried to walk away." He warned them. The board member peered over his glasses. "Is it accurate that he possesses combat training?" Reggie didn't flinch. "Yes, but training doesn't equate to violence. It signifies control. It's about understanding how not to injure someone." One of the assistant principals interjected. "There's a circulating video. We don't see what triggers the altercation." "Of course you don't." Reggie interjected emphatically. They fell silent. Kareem finally spoke. "They targeted me. I didn't throw the first punch, I didn't even want to be there." "And yet," the board member stated, tapping on the folder before him, "we've received reports of you being involved in a physical altercation. What should I have done then?" Kareem retorted, calm, yet resolute. "Let them beat me." Another moment of silence ensued. Reggie leaned back. "This isn't merely about a fight, it's about how you perceive my nephew. You encountered a large, quiet black boy defending himself and presumed he must be the issue." Langford appeared unsettled. The board member scribbled quickly on his notepad. The decision faced delays. They required additional time. Outside, Reggie exhaled slowly. "You did well." "Doesn't feel that way," Kareem replied. "They heard you, even if you don't acknowledge it." That night, Kareem hardly touched his food. He sat on the back steps, gazing at the sky. Everything felt disarrayed. He had done the right thing and still found himself under scrutiny. He pondered if there was truly a right way to be. Yet the genuine turning point came from someone he least expected. Thursday morning was thick with tension. The hearing decision remained pending, but everyone at Millstone walked as if it already had. Kareem felt at the instant he stepped inside, he was no longer a student but a rumor in sneakers. He moved through the hallways like fog, visible yet untouched. Some students stared, some whispered, others simply looked away. By lunchtime, his usual table in the back seemed chillier than ever. Kareem poked at his food and was halfway through his apple when someone slid into the seat opposite him, a white girl with short auburn hair and large glasses, quiet and reserved. Kareem recognized her from a few classes. She was always seen with a sketchpad, keeping to herself. Her name was Delaney Foster. She didn't greet him. Instead, she leaned in and whispered, "I saw everything." Kareem blinked in surprise. "What?" "Behind the gym, I was there. I didn't intend to be, I was sketching the dumpsters for a project. I stayed quiet to avoid getting dragged into it, but this hearing isn't right." Kareem studied her, unsure if he should trust her. "You're not just messing with me." "No," she replied, her expression serious. "I already informed the assistant principal. I'll be at the follow-up hearing." That evening, when Reggie returned home from work, Kareem recounted the entire story. "She's going to testify?" "Yeah." "Do you trust her?" "I'm not sure, but she seemed earnest." Reggie nodded. Sometimes, the right people remain silent until the cost of that silence becomes too high. Friday's follow-up hearing had a renewed atmosphere. Delaney occupied the far end of the table, hands resting in her lap, slightly trembling, yet her words resonated clearly. They cornered him 3-against-1. Logan threw the first punch, Kareem merely defended himself. He asked them to back off more than once. "I saw it all." The room shifted, all eyes were on her, including Langford, who appeared to halt his note-taking. "And you didn't speak up until now?" asked the board member. Delaney nodded. "I was frightened, but that's no excuse." Her voice faltered slightly as she concluded her point. After another 15 minutes of discussion, they dismissed the assembly. Kareem and Reggie emerged into the parking lot together, the frigid wintry wind biting through their jackets. "She didn't have to do that," Kareem murmured. "No," Reggie retorted, "but she did." The official decision arrived via email the following morning. Kareem Tolliver is not subject to disciplinary action. The school recognizes evidence demonstrating he acted in self-defense. Reggie printed it and adhered it to the fridge. Yet, even with the hearing concluded, Kareem was aware that things weren't simply settled at school. In the week to come, an odd quiet settled in. There were no more snide comments, no more shoving. Brock offered him no words and wouldn't even meet his gaze. Logan accepted his return, keeping his head down, while Ty switched lunch tables entirely. One afternoon, as Kareem deposited his books in his locker, Delaney strolled past. She didn't speak but raised her hand in a small wave as she walked on. He smiled slightly, no words were necessary. The atmosphere around Kareem changed, not only for him, but for the school as well. He noticed 2 freshmen standing up for a kid being mocked, and he observed a teacher actually intervening when a student made a pointed remark. In class, small but significant shifts occurred. Yet even amidst achieving justice, Kareem was left with a weight greater than bruises. The last bell of the semester rang, and the hallways surged with noise once more. Backpacks swung across shoulders, lockers slammed shut, and plans for winter break echoed against the walls. For Kareem Tolliver, however, nothing felt ordinary. He lingered by his locker longer than usual, allowing the flow of bodies to pass him by. There was no hearing, no threats, no whispers, but peace. That was an entirely different matter. He had weathered the storm, but surviving doesn't always equate to healing. Miss Curtis, his English teacher called, catching him as he was about to leave. "Hey, Kareem, hold on a moment." He turned to her. "We're having a student-led assembly tomorrow. One of the speakers dropped out, and a few of us thought maybe you'd consider sharing something." He froze. "Speak in front of the entire school?" She smiled gently. "Only if you want to. I simply believe people need to hear from you, not the narrative circulating around." Kareem didn't respond, he merely nodded once before walking away. That night, he sat on his room floor with a blank page in front of him and a pen in hand. He stared at the paper for nearly an hour before writing a single line. "I didn't ask to be here, but I'm not going anywhere either." The next morning, the auditorium was filled to the brim, lights dimmed, students restless, teachers positioned along the back wall with arms crossed. Kareem waited backstage until they called his name. He walked slowly to the mic. No paper, no script, just his voice. "I've been labeled many things since I arrived: quiet, weird, dangerous." Some nervous laughter trickled from the crowd. "I didn't come here to confront anyone, I came here to finish high school. Like everyone else, I wanted to get through my day without unnecessary drama. He glanced around. The silence was palpable, but everyone listened attentively. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect. I've made mistakes, I've felt anger, I've experienced pain. But if your sole understanding of me is the version someone else has shared, then you never truly knew me. The gym remained still. I'm not from here. I hail from a city where keeping your head down is the key to survival, where you learn young when to speak and when to remain silent. And here, I've had to realize that sometimes silence merely amplifies people's voices. He paused and gestured to the teachers. I'm thankful for those who pay attention and those who don't. I'm still here, you couldn't frighten me away. Somewhere in the mid-rows, Delaney listened, her expression steady. Kareem looked up once more. I guess what I want to communicate is, don't rush to label others. You don't truly know what they've endured or the burdens they carry. Perhaps, next time, instead of mocking, pushing, or posting something phony, try asking instead. He stepped back, the mic silencing with a click. There was no immediate applause, just a heavy stillness. Then came a solitary clap, followed by another, and soon it swelled into a real chorus, not wild or dramatic, just genuine. That day, something began to crack open at Millstone High. Not everyone transformed, but a few did, and sometimes that's sufficient to initiate something new. Later that afternoon, as Kareem traversed the courtyard, a younger kid halted him. Are you really trained to fight? He asked. Kareem shrugged, responding, I train to stay ready. The kid smiled, can you teach me? Kareem pondered for a moment. You sure you want to learn? It's not about inflicting harm. The kid nodded with determination. I just don't want to feel afraid anymore. Kareem smiled softly, all right then, first lesson, stand tall, even when it feels simpler to shrink. They walked side by side toward the exit gate, not as teacher and student, but as two kids navigating how to forge ahead. Sometimes, the most challenging battles aren't the ones fought with fists, rather, they're the ones where you're compelled to assert your right to belong in a world that often pushes you out. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. We have more stories worth hearing.